Welcome to Sizzle Fantasy Sports, the channel with the most sizzling hot fantasy takes and analysis, presented by your host, Gavin.
Rodgers clean pocket, throws the middle of the end zone. Devontae, touchdown, and a dagger!
What's up, Erik and Gavin back with another video for you guys today. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite quarterback prospects in the 2021 NFL draft class for you guys. We've got just under 10 names to talk about and go over some strengths and weaknesses. So if you're new around here to the channel, make sure to head down and click that subscribe button and turn the bell on so you guys are notified whenever we come out with a new video or hit up a live stream.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely free. If you don't end up liking us, you can unsubscribe always. So other than that, we got social media here. We've got a TikTok that I'm always working on. We've got some fun stuff on there. Instagram, Twitter, that'll help you find out when we go up with another video or go live on a stream. And soon we have a live draft show, which is definitely something you're going to want to check out.
It's going to be big stuff,
We got sizzlefantasy.com here. It's going to be all part of that and our draft guides that are on our site there. So check it out. Make sure to subscribe, get the bell on, and get on those socials so you can stay connected with us and know what's going on.
Yeah, so without further ado, you guys, we've talked a lot at you, but let's get right into today's video. Whew. All right, our top quarterback prospect on the board for the 2021 season is Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is one of the best prospects to come out in the last 5+ years. When you add up his size and his ability, what he's done as a playmaker, and especially as a passer, and not only being limited to his passing ability, that's what impresses me the most about Trevor Lawrence. We joke about how at Clemson they had him trying to run some of those quarterback option plays when a lot of people view this guy as a pure quarterback. That just shows that the coaching staff had some faith and confidence in him to let him carry the football as a runner at the college level. He is underrated in his athleticism. What's impressed me the most is that he makes throws at every level of the defense. He's excellent at the short, intermediate, and deep passing game. Great accuracy, great size. Trevor Lawrence has all the intangibles that I would want in my franchise quarterback, and I think the Jags are getting a guy they can really build around with the first overall pick.
Yeah, he shows us things we really want to see in an NFL QB with throwing on each level. He also this year struggled to have protection. We saw him get injured with getting sacked so much, and he does everything he can, and it's pretty amazing. He's showing us that magician type escapability, which is something that we have definitely seen in the NFL. He's going to go to the Jags. We know that's going to be the pick at number 1. And the Jags' offensive line is underrated, and it will probably be a better situation than it was for Trevor Lawrence in Clemson, which is a really good sign. And they have DJ Shark. They have Laviska Shenault. They have some decent receivers. They got Marvin Jones as well. I think they're a tight end away from having a really nice setup for a quarterback who's definitely going to get the ball to his receivers. He's going to make plays, and the Jags could actually put together a nice offense with a QB that is bound to have success in the NFL.
Yeah, you hit all the points right on the head there. I think that he is going to be able to go into Jacksonville. Obviously, he's got the rookie contract, so they're going to be able to build pieces around him.
Yeah.
But they've already got a cheap running back in James Robinson. They have a very young defense, and they really need to strengthen that unit of their team.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of different routes this Jags football team could go about to ensure that he has success here. I think Trevor Lawrence, really what has impressed me the most and shown that he's a trustworthy pick at number 1 overall is that Clemson team as a whole regressed each of his 3 seasons at Clemson, but the one constant was Trevor Lawrence and his production on the football field. This guy was excellent, and he was the centerpiece of that entire team all 3 years. So Trevor Lawrence, he's a unanimous pick here at number 1. I don't think there's any discussion about it. Then at number 2, I've got Zach Wilson here. I think Zach Wilson is honestly comparable to my Green Bay Packers starting quarterback Aaron Rodgers in some of his play styles and mannerisms. That's not to say that I think he'll reach the heights of Aaron Rodgers or be a 3-time MVP. He is going to the Jets after all. And while we do root for the Jets as our second team, let's just be honest. They haven't had a great track record with quarterbacks, and their last franchise quarterback was Joe Namath, if we're being completely honest. So that is a long, long time. The Jets, I think they're moving in the right direction. Joe Douglas has at least shown some capability, and I think that's the direction this team wants to go at number 2. The Jets want to go take Zach Wilson is what everyone's saying right now. That's the way I've had it, and Eric's had it, and a lot of our recent mocks. I think Robert Saleh is a strong coach to bring in there. But Zach Wilson, his playmaking ability outside the pocket is fantastic. His ability to throw deep balls, his spiral is very, very clean, and his throws in tight windows have really impressed me. Overall, as a prospect, I think he is just enough athleticism for what you need at the next level with the ability to protect the football and not turn it over, which I think will be crucial going into a division with some up-and-coming defenses.
Yeah, again, this is a player who has shown us things that we want to see in an NFL QB. He can throw in tight windows. He can escape the pocket. That offensive line for the Jets is not very good. We've definitely had them taking some offensive linemen in our mock drafts. Clearly, they're going to take Zach Wilson here. They traded Sam Darnold, who we are fans of, and we think he could do well with the Panthers. But we're talking about Zach Wilson, and he showed us in his pro day that he can make those great throws. Clearly, that's a pro day. It's not in a game, but we've seen him just completely carry that team, just destroy the competition, which is one of the questions for Zach Wilson. He's not playing the greatest of teams, but you've brought up a good point where the people he's throwing to aren't that great. It almost is, you want to see a QB throwing to receivers that might not have a bigger catch radius. We see Kyle Trask, who we'll talk about later on, who's throwing to receivers like Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney, who have really large catch radiuses, and they make him look a little better than he really is. When Zach Wilson goes to the NFL, he's going to have decent receivers with the Jets, but not the greatest receivers, and he's going to make them look pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's one of the points I brought up with Zach Wilson, and I think that's really important to talk about with these quarterbacks. If you're going to knock them for the level of competition they're playing at, the other argument, the other side of that you can also bring up is who is around them. Mm-hmm. Who are they playing with? If that quarterback is elevating the level of the players that he is playing with, I think that's an encouraging sign because we've seen quarterbacks come out of these smaller schools and do well. Josh Allen's, Aaron Rodgers out of Cal. I mean, even Jared Goff out of Cal. There is a way that you don't have to be an Alabama or a Clemson quarterback to come out of the draft and be a successful guy. As a matter of fact, Ohio State and Alabama doesn't have great track records with quarterbacks, and that's something we'll talk about here with this next player, Justin Fields, who I think has all the world of potential. He has all of the requisite tools. I just think he has to harness his talent a little bit better because from what I've seen from him, he has elite athleticism and mobility. What was his 40 time? It was 4.44, I believe, or something like that.
Very fast.
Crazy fast for a quarterback. This guy has a huge arm, just like Zach Wilson. He made one of those crossbody throws 60 yards downfield on a dime. It was very, very impressive to see. But I think that the Justin Fields knock for me is the decision-making at times. He didn't turn the ball over all that often when he was at OSU this season, obviously transferred from Georgia. But when he turned it over, it was ugly. They were bad interceptions. They were panic and last resort, kind of desperation type throws, rather, into windows where there wasn't anything there. So that's what concerns me a bit at the next level. Another thing I'd say is he sometimes holds the ball for too long, and he can hold it and take big sacks, and that's when those picks were happening. So Justin Fields, I love the guy as a prospect. I just think he needs to go to a situation with a stable offensive coaching coordinator. Yeah,
I think coaching is a really big deal, and we see the Falcons at number 4. I'm not expecting them to take a QB. No. It's possible that a QB-needing team trades up and tries to get a guy like Justin Fields or Trey Lance here. I'm expecting him to struggle at first. If he does have to start right away, I think he needs to sit. He needs to learn from a veteran QB, learn from a good QB coaching coach, and it's just really important for a player with all this ability to have some time because we definitely think he can be good in the NFL. We just don't think that he's as ready to start as Wilson or Lawrence, who have shown us that true NFL talent, and we've seen them lead and have success. And Justin Fields has definitely had success, but not in the same way as we want to see in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think exactly the point here is that Justin Fields needs to go somewhere where they have a quarterback guru per se, or a guy that can bring out his best traits and almost kind of shadow over the things he doesn't do so well.
Yeah, because his issues aren't necessarily mechanical issues. They're more just his thinking and
decisions. It's all decision making,
which is a thing that can be coached
absolutely
much easier.
Yeah, and this is why in my mock drafts I get a lot of heat for it sometimes. I put him at 3 to the 49ers. If there's a coach, based on what we've heard and based on what he has done in his career so far, Kyle Shanahan is the guy at number 3 that I would love to see Justin Fields go to, or Trey Lance for that matter. My argument is always Mac Jones may be more pro-ready. He may have better decision-making, but the ceiling is so much more capped for a Mac Jones than it is for a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. These guys can do all the world with what they have to offer, and I would love to see one of those guys go at the 3 spot, but that's besides the point here. At number 4, Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. This one is a bit of a foggy picture for some people. There's a lot of extreme skeptics, and there is some reasoning and some rightful cause here to that. He didn't play this season, only in one game for Trey Lance in 2020, obviously because of COVID and everything that went on this season. But what he showed in 2019 was absolute dominance. He had no turnovers as a starter for that football team. He actually called his own protections at North Dakota State, which I also thought was very impressive and just showed some of the intellect that he has. Big arm, mobile, a bruising runner in the open field. There's so much that I like about Trey Lance. It's just the mystique of maybe not seeing a great sample size or a great level of competition that's holding him down the board.
Yeah, we saw the same kind of thing with Carson Wentz. He's a very big quarterback. He makes big plays. He plays at NDSU, clearly, is why I'm comparing them. And Wentz is a legitimate QB. He was very good out of college and was very good in the NFL in his first 2 years. And now he's moving to the Colts with another guru who he was with the Eagles. I think Trey Lance just needs a coach, just like Justin Fields. I think that he is more ready than Justin Fields. He's shown us that leadership. He's shown us some NFL-type things, being able to call his own protections, playing in a more NFL-style offense, and just having those intangibles that we really like.
Right. At number 5 here, we've got Mac Jones of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think that we've kind of got the reputation of the Mac Jones haters right now, and that comes from our mock drafts because we often have Mac Jones sliding and being the 5th quarterback off the board. Yeah. And that necessarily isn't exactly how I think things, based off what we've heard lately, will play out in the NFL draft. Clearly, this is how we have them ranked. Mac Jones, I think, is a guy who can walk in and start day one because he does have those pro-ready intangibles. He is very intelligent, and he's a quarterback
played at a really high level as well.
Right, won the national championship, obviously, and we know that doesn't make you an instant translation to the NFL, but he is playing with some great players at Alabama. The one thing that I've kind of said that while you can knock Justin Fields and Trey Lance for some unknown qualities about them is that Mac Jones really hasn't had to throw in tight windows at the college level. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, those guys fly right past the DBs in that division. And so I think that there are also just as fair and equal judgments that need to be made about Mac Jones here. Like I said, the guy's very smart. He can make those throws, but I think the ceiling is capped because of the lack of mobility. Right now, if I look around the NFL, based on the quarterbacks that are starting in the league, there's not too many pure pocket passers that are winning at an elite level, and the one guy that immediately comes to mind has been playing for over 20 years. So Mac Jones, I think, if he goes to San Francisco, he probably will find success there. That's the healthiest situation that any of these quarterbacks could go to based off a day one, just a functional situation with a great defense, great coach, great ownership. So if he ultimately does go to San Francisco at the end of the day, I think Mac Jones will be just fine and be a productive and franchise quarterback for that football team. I just don't like the move. I think it's a lateral move for them to go from Jimmy G to Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think that they're very similar, and Jimmy G has definitely benefited from the great coaching on that team, the great run game. There's clearly memes we've all seen about the defense and Raheem Mostert just running for 200 yards and Jimmy G throwing 1 touchdown and throwing for 100 yards. That team's going to be really good if they can stay healthy. And adding Mac Jones, clearly we don't love it, but it's still a young QB who could definitely be developed. And we've seen QBs like Mac Jones over the entire NFL's lifespan. QBs like Mac Jones have success.
Right.
I think that he just needs to be a supreme leader. He needs to be just like Tom. If you're going to be that pocket passer, you better be a coach on the field. You better be telling people what to do. We've seen Phillip Rivers do it. We've seen Ben Roethlisberger do it. Really smart QBs that kind of make the plays for them so they don't have to be a mobile guy to make sure their guys are in the right place. He has a great arm. He can throw deep. We've seen that. He just throws it right over the defense because he's got Waddle and Smith going behind the secondary.
Effortless.
Which is why we want to see that NFL-type offensive play. So he's not throwing a lot of short routes. He's throwing a lot of deep routes. But I think that if he's coached up, that he could be a nice NFL QB.
Yeah, and the one praise that I do have for Mac Jones is that what we hear a lot of the great things about him is his work ethic in the film room, his love for the game of football, and his ability to want to continue to learn, continue to find out new ways to be better, to beat the team across the field from him. So I think, like I said, Mac Jones, he will find success if he goes number 3 at San Francisco. I just think that the ability, or the inability rather, to run the football just kind of caps his game at a point. Number 6 here, we've got Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. I think that Kellen Mond, he's kind of a sleeper here.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's absolutely a project quarterback. We're past the point of guys who are capable of walking in and being a day 1 starter. Kellen Mond is probably a mid to late day 2 pick. He's probably a 3rd, 4th.
He could definitely go in the bottom of the 2nd.
It's possible.
His stock is somewhat rising. He had a good pro day. And as you were saying, he's kind of a project, but he has a decent arm. He seems pretty coachable. He's got good legs. He's just shown some NFL things, but he definitely needs a nice coach to get him to where he needs to be.
Yeah, the reason I have Kellen Mond, above
Lots of mores in the draft, though, so that's acceptable.
Above a guy like a Kyle Trask is slightly better mobility. I think Kellen Mond is able to get out of the pocket and make some throws on the run. His throwing motion, you can kind of see it on the screen here. He's got a bit of a weird release, and it's kind of goofy, but he is, for the most part, an accurate passer. My one knock and the thing I didn't love about him is when throwing down the field, I felt like the ball was always maybe a half step or a step behind the receiver, and I felt like even if the receiver was to beat the defensive back by a significant margin, I feel like the ball was always slightly underthrown to a point where they were almost able to catch up and get a hand in between the receiver's arms. So Kellen Mond, though, he does have some nice intangibles. I think at the very least, this is a really nice backup for a team. Bring him in, cheap 4-year contract. But I do think he is a guy who could be potentially worked out and have some stints for a couple teams throughout his career. Our 7th quarterback on the board here is Kyle Trask of the Florida Gators, of course. He had his moments this season. Kyle Trask, he's got a big arm. He makes big plays. But the reasoning for having him a bit lower on the list here is just plain and simple decision-making and mobility. I think that Kyle Trask at times has had kind of the tendency to just throw it up, because when you have a guy, I would do the same thing. You got Kyle Pitts on your team, I'm chucking it up in the end zone in triple coverage. But, I mean, Kadarius Toney also made Kyle Trask look fantastic. Yeah. I think that you alluded to this earlier on in the video. The catching radius of some of the guys on this Gators football team is absurd.
Yeah.
They have massive wingspans, and Kyle Pitts just has to throw him a high ball, and they high point the ball, and touchdown.
He comes down with it like Megatron.
Yeah, he doesn't really have to throw accurate tight window passes, and I'm not even necessarily knocking Kyle Trask right now. This is just kind of praising the talent that he has around him. But overall, I would just like to see some more consistency out of Kyle Trask. There's been some rumors that the Saints, with their 2nd round pick, might use him as a long-term replacement or project-type player in the absence of Drew Brees. So he's got potential. I would almost compare him and think of him in the light of a Jake Fromm from last year's draft class, a guy who's not the most mobile player in the world, has some turnovers at times, but ultimately can make the big play down the field. What do you think about Kyle Trask?
Unfortunately, Jake Fromm's kind of the 3rd guy because the MVP went to the Bills.
Money
Mitch
Mitch.
Trubisky. Anyway, I do like that comp. He's almost like Jameis Winston as well. He's got a little bit of movement, but he's kind of just chucks it in, and he throws a lot, and sometimes it works really well. Sometimes he throws picks, but Kyle Trask has some accuracy issues. He's got a good arm, but I think that with that large catch radius, he got bailed out a little bit. And then in the NFL, coverage is going to be tighter. Even with guys like Kyle Pitts, he's not going to just win everything, even though It looks like he might. He's going to be good. That's why he's going so high on boards. And Kyle Trask, if he does go to the Saints, he's got Michael Thomas to throw to. He's got Troutman's going to be their tight end. That team's interesting. But either way, I don't think Kyle Trask should start right away. I do think he should sit. Basically, all these players should after Mac Jones. But Kyle Trask is interesting. I think he could be good in the NFL, but he definitely needs to develop. And I can just see him kind of being an issue, a problem child with those picks.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there is a lot of quarterbacks I would actually like to see sit. Maybe it's just for a game or two, maybe 3 games at the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
But I would say maybe the only guys I want walking in as a day one starter is Trevor Lawrence in this draft class,
Yep.
maybe Zach Wilson. I think I'd like to see Justin Fields sit for 1, 2, maybe 3 games, get a full preseason under his belt. Trey Lance, same deal since he didn't play last year. I think Mac Jones, I said it, I've knocked his ceiling enough, so I won't talk about that. But I think he's more ready to walk in day one and start than any of those other guys besides probably a Lawrence. So these guys a lot of them are project quarterbacks. Great ceilings for a lot of these guys. I think Kyle Trask can come in there, and who knows, maybe someday he turns into something.
Surprise some people.
Yeah. At number 8 here, our last guy that we're going to talk about today is Jamie Newman of the Georgia Bulldogs. Where he did get his playing time, though, was at Wake Forest prior to his transfer. He opted out this season to prepare for the NFL draft. I think Jamie Newman, there has been some things I don't love about him, but he has been a productive player and a guy who makes plays. So he is a very mobile quarterback.
A little sassy.
He's a little sassy with the celebrations after touchdowns. A lot of flexing going on, and just some very
little extracurriculars.
A little extracurricular activities, if you will. I love this guy's deep ball. He has a very nice touch when throwing the ball down the field. I think that, like I said, as a runner, he plays very physically. He'll put his pads down and run the linebackers over.
Truck.
I don't know how impressive that is when you're playing at Wake Forest. They do play some decent teams, but he's still putting his shoulder down against those bigger defensive players. So Newman's a guy, just like these other players. He's a project piece. He's not a day one starter. I think he's a day 2, maybe day 3 pick. I think a team like maybe the Patriots, if they don't go early quarterback, could sneak in here and get a mobile quarterback like a Jamie Newman late in the draft. I think that, he's not the most surefire thing in the world. I really didn't see any throws on tape that were short or intermediate passing. It was all quarterback run game or deep balls, but he does have some talent to work with.
Yeah, it was kind of just Sage Surratt, and that was his guy.
Post and fades.
He could throw it deep to Sage, and he looked good on film in the sense that he has some intangibles that could be developed. He's definitely not an NFL type QB, but he, again, can be developed by a good coach, and he should sit for years, I think. It should be a long time until Jamie Newman was to start. If there was an injury, he would come in and kind of look like that receiver that played quarterback for Denver this year.
Oh, what was his name? Man, I'm not going to be able to think of it. Jamie Newman, he could be a guy that comes in and there's no tape on him, so he comes in there and has a nice couple weeks.
Yeah, he could, but again, we're kind of being harsh on him. He could develop into an NFL
like
QB. Yeah, he has things that we really like, but he's kind of a firecracker. He's got good legs. He's got a big arm. Yeah, he's interesting, but that's Jamie Newman for you.
All right, you guys, those were our top 8 quarterback prospects for the 2021 NFL draft class. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure, like we talked about at the beginning, and we talk about every episode, go down and click that subscribe button and turn the bell on so you guys never miss an episode. Also, if you enjoyed today, go check out sizzlefantasy.com. Get yourself hooked up with a fantasy football draft guide for the 2021 season. And go check out Eric on some of our social media. So, without further ado, you guys, we were happy to have you around today. And we'll see you all next time. Peace out.